Good morning. Hi, good to see you. My name's Stuart Cosgrove, and I want to speak to you today about a new book I'm writing called Hey America, Black Music and the White House. This is a book which charts the emergence and the development of black music from R&B to soul to hip hop as it interacts with the White House and the various presidents that have occupied the highest office in the United States. It takes us from Dwight D. Eisenhower to Donald Trump, and from R&B to hip hop. One of the objectives of the book is to try to understand how a form of music grew to be such an epic and important part of the pop cultural world in which we live. But before we talk about the book in more detail, let me introduce myself and tell you a little bit about my writing and my books to date. I'm the author of several books, all of them on the theme of black music and its interaction with social change. My first book, which was in part biographic, is called Young Soul Rebels, A Personal History of the Northern Soul Scene. As I was coming to the end of the phase of my career at Channel 4, I started to imagine a very, very big idea. The idea of drawing together a trilogy of books that would talk about soul music in the last 3 years of the 1960s. But let me take you to the book that I want to talk to you about today. It's called, as I've said, Hey America, Black Music and the White House. And it goes from Dwight D. Eisenhower to Donald Trump over decades of fascinating historical developments within American society and indeed in the evolution of the greatest form of music, I would argue, of the 20th century. The book begins actually with a chapter called The Audacity of Soul. No prizes for guessing that I've taken the title of the first chapter from the great book, The Audacity of Hope by Barack Obama. And it starts with Barack Obama's victory speech in Chicago the night he becomes President of the United States, and looks at his life, at the life of Chicago itself, and particularly the south side of Chicago, which was one of the great epicenters of soul music. But it also shows you how Barack Obama mobilized the great music of the 60s and indeed the civil rights movement in order to communicate with voters, with citizens, and with people that he was trying to convince that the White House was opening up to a more diverse America. And in lots of ways, one of the great things about Obama's presidency was he opened the door to black musicians like never before. And the chapter kind of looks at how that came about and therefore at the audacity of soul. The chapters that are early in the book, many of them are actually set in the 60s and early 70s. One of them, for example, Hey Hey LBJ, looks at public sentiment at the war in Vietnam against the presidency of Lyndon Johnson and shows how soul music began to kind of shape, reflect, and actually also, to some extent, proselytize the different attitudes that people took to the war in Vietnam from an early era of kind of patriotism in the early to mid-60s through to the outright rebellion and rejection that we saw in the 1970s. So that's soul music in Vietnam. There's also the cop killer controversy in the era of George Bush, where gangster rap and gun control came into effect during a significant election. So the book moves on and on through the presidencies and charts the change both of their fortunes and of the fortunes of the music. The book ends, perhaps predictably, with the rise of Black Lives Matter and the Trump presidency. It's a fascinating story already, and as I speak to you today, I'm not even sure how it's going to end up. So the book will be up to date as far as it possibly can be, and unfortunately I can't predict the future, but the book will conclude with power and with veracity.